Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen show where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 175, Emotional Footprints in the Sand. Recorded on Friday, December 3rd, 2021 from ZAnalytics Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
As always, we have our announcements and events, and please do not forget about the upcoming ZenMe Awards. Tyler and I are going to be doing that, December, or it's on our events calendar here. We're going to be doing the ZenMes on December 22nd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We have it blocked out. I don't know if it's going to run 2 hours, but the past shows are any guide. And man, looking at what Zoho's done over this year, there's going to be a lot there. But anyway, zanata.com/ZenMes. You head over here, vote on your favorite apps, your favorite extensions, and those will be our winners next year. Time to participate. Let us know what you think. And as always, as I was talking about here, if you go ahead and you look at our events tab, this is where we keep track of all of the upcoming events. And it was kind of quiet there for a while, Tyler, but now it looks like Zoho is kind of ramping some things up and some other partners are ramping some things up. So a lot of events in December. So if you head over to zanata.com/events, you can get all of the latest event news. And with that, let's jump right on into this week's Zoho news. This is kind of cool. So some instant messaging channels are coming to Zoho Desk. Basically going to allow you to put WhatsApp, Telegram, Line, and WeChat all the way into Zoho Desk. It was funny. I was watching, in order for this to work though, you need to have a WhatsApp phone number, or a WhatsApp number in order for this to work. And I was watching our good friend, Lior Izak. He's got a great YouTube channel as well on Zoho, if you haven't checked it out. He basically was saying that these are virtually impossible to get. I guess that Facebook is playing very hard with the WhatsApp phone numbers, but if you can get one, you can get this integration, and basically you can basically a whole nother chat channel, if you will.
Yep.
Right.
And so normally Desk is kind of optimized, right, for responding to emails, incoming, outgoing emails. But, as customer preferences change over time, more and more people are getting interested in getting things through messaging tools. Maybe I'm old fashioned. I still would rather do email if I'm getting customer support, but I know that I might be in the minority here as time goes on. So definitely a nice functionality to have, to just be able to open up a whole new way that customers can get in touch.
Yeah. And you've got, they're also going to do Facebook Messenger. There's a whole bunch here. And also, it's kind of on the down low, and I haven't quite seen it yet. But Zoho is coming up with their own messenger, and we're not quite sure what that's going to look like, but it should be interesting.
Is that going to be different than Aratai, the one they released last year, if that was the name?
Yeah, actually, it was January of this year. Aratai
Wow.
was released. I was reviewing the show notes for the ZenMe Awards and kind of going through that. Yeah, I have that on my phone. Chatted with a few people about it. It's a nice encrypted messaging service, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but we shall see, and that shall be coming up. Zoho CRM campaigns integration update. We've kind of been hinting about this for a while. This is a pretty major update. I'll take a swag at it, Tyler, and then you can kind of follow up with all of your corrections that you need to do on this one time we're done. Basically, in the past, you would go into the CRM, you would set up custom views, you would go into campaigns, you would map those custom views as either periodic or instant syncs. It will pull that data over. It wasn't really a sync. It was more of kind of a one-way, and then it could sometimes, anyway, it was a
pull.
There.
Yeah, it was a pull, not really a sync, right?
Right. So now it's going to grab basically everything in your CRM, and it's going to put it over into campaigns, and it's actually going to sync. It's going to write data both ways once you do this. You say, well, wait, I only have 10,000 contacts that I can email to over in campaigns. What does that mean to me if I've got, 100,000 contacts, all those 100? You're basically going to go through and flag your contacts. Now, this is going to be a process, I believe, as to whether or not they're marketing leads or non-marketing leads. And the marketing leads are the ones that are going to go against your usage or the number that you can actually have inside of campaigns. But on the bright side, I think that at the end of the day, there's a whole new tagging feature and some other functionality. it does appear to be a much needed update. And I know you've got a lot of other thoughts on this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you summed up the big change perfectly there, which is that rather than going from a CRM custom view to a campaigns mailing list, you're basically just going to turn it on, right? And it's going to pull in leads, contacts, related account information, as well as related deal information related to those contacts, all into campaigns. It's going to be a lot more dependent on segments rather than mailing lists. So like as you're pulling in all these various contacts, right, you'll be applying different criteria filters to put them into different segments of your master list. That's basically going to pull them in that way. The things that this is going to fix and kind of solve for is some of those write back issues to the CRM. So like a big one that, we've bumped into with clients is, I've got 10,000 leads where their lead status is cold, right? And so I want to put them into a 10 email drip that has marketing language kind of around, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while, right? You have this kind of specific language that you want to send out to a specific type of lead. The problem with the old sync is, let's say they get that first email and they give you a call, right? And we update their status in the CRM from cold to hot. With the old integration, because it was just pulling from the CRM, that lead would actually still be considered a cold lead in campaigns. And 2 days after they give you a call, they might get an email that says, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. So with this new sync, they're trying to bring themselves into parity with like the HubSpot platform, right? Where the campaigning tool is really an extension of the CRM rather than just like a totally separate world. So it should be solving for a handful of pretty important issues that, I think people bump into when they get into campaigns right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. What strikes me about all of this is that I'm loving the fact they're doing all these enhancements to campaigns. It's just great. It's the only one we recommend. Marketing automation, previously Marketing Hub. It's so many issues. And we have been waiting now over a year for all the fixes to Marketing Hub. And there just seems to be crickets on the whole marketing automation side of things. No updates, no big release. And these are such similar applications that share so much similar code. I'm baffled, but yeah, this is something that is much needed. So stoke about that. I will tell you, when you go to do the update, it's going to say, it'll say update now or upgrade now, and you go to upgrade and say, oh, you can't because you haven't done this, and you'll have to
go make topics first. Yeah, there's kind of some steps.
You have to make topics and go through some things to actually do the conversion. It's not the slickest thing. You think you'd hit it, it would just, because all you do is go into topics and say upgrade, and it makes your topics for you, right? And so there's kind of a thing to do there. So there is a process, but it's going to be well worth it. And if you go into campaigns, you should see that upgrade button now. All right, moving right along, Zoho meetings got a whole bunch of updates 3 days ago. They cleaned up the UI. They're improved video quality, they're saying. So there's just some interesting things there. A lot of nice bug fixes. It just keeps kind of trucking along.
Yeah, I think expanding webinars as well, up to 3,000 attendees now from their previous limit. So definitely putting a lot of work in a Zoho meeting. I will say we were on a Zoho meeting call not too long ago, and they've still got some audio quality issues. Things were sounding kind of fuzzy and compressed. So I know they're working on that. That's a tough one, especially because they do have their own data centers, right? So it's not as easy as just increasing their budget, right? They actually have to build out more throughput that they can allocate to Zoho meetings. So they're aware of it. They're working on it. And hopefully by 2023, we'll have switched off of Zoom. That would be a nice,
oh, wow.
a nice goal.
You've got some Brett sarcasm going there. I like that.
Well, I mean, I would love to. I love the UI. There's a lot of great features. It's just for us, I mean, for recording and things like that, it's just too important that the quality of everything is up to snuff.
I think we could save if Zoho bookings got fixed and Zoho meetings got fixed, we'd save about $4,000 or $5,000 a year having not to use Calendly and Zoom. I'm in a Zoho meetings team. You bury it halfway down the article here under other enhancements, where you say we've also been working on some server side enhancements to reduce connectivity issues and enhance audio video quality. Let's just have a whole post on that and do nothing but work on that. And then the app is solid. Also, work with go to Acuity Scheduling, go to Calendly, go to all of these third-party calendar apps and build those integrations on that side. Because that's the other key thing. They get Zoho Meeting fixed. I'm stoked. We can leave Zoom. We can start doing that. But right,
you got to have that same integration quality.
But you've got to get those integrations with all of the other calendaring applications, because that's really every single one of these that gets released. They have those kind of integrations that roll down. So hopefully they work on that and they get that fixed, and that will be a very good thing. All righty, then moving on with the news. We got some big CRM dashboard enhancements. I haven't had a chance to look at any of these. Are these just some new widgets?
So this is kind of a nice one. It's actually a much needed one that's kind of been a dangling thing that probably never worked its way to the top of their priority list, but it's great to have. So what this is referring to specifically is your CRM homepages. And even more specifically than that, we're talking about the default homepage for a user, right? So CRM homepages, you've got a user specific homepage. You've got a role specific homepage. And if you're a manager, you now have a default manager's homepage, but let's not think about that one. What they did here is the user homepage previously always just had my open task, today's leads, and my meetings. My open tasks is great. Today's leads just might not apply for everybody. My meetings, not everyone runs those through the CRM. And so basically what they did here is they updated the standard user homepage to include a couple KPIs like my open deals, my leads, my untouched deals, my calls that are planned for today. They added a couple new custom views. So like my deals closing this month. And then they added a quick little funnel down in the bottom left for pipeline by stage. I think this does two things. One, it makes the user homepage much more useful for like a standard CRM user. And two, I think it's kind of some suggestive implementation here. They're trying to make sure that people see the different things that you can do here with widgets and, pipelines and things like that. So I think it's great. When they rolled out the manager's dashboard, that was a great step, because that does give you, if you're kind of a standard CRM user, that is honestly going to cover a lot of what you'd want to see as a manager of the CRM. And I think hopefully they'll be doing the same thing here with the user page. It's a nice update.
Good stuff. I mean, we've kind of done a lot of this for clients, but it's not an out of the box kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And all of these reports, it's a good mention. Like all these reports are things you could surely create on your own. It's not like they're exclusive to this. It's just that, if you are that kind of CRM company and you don't need any crazy customization, now out of the box, this is just going to look better and be more useful.
All right. And then we got some CRM field encryption news and continuing CRM. So some data enhancements basically to data encryption. So if you don't know, when did they release encryption?
A while back now. It's been a long time
back. So you can encrypt certain fields. This comes in handy if you're actually storing social security numbers, which you shouldn't, but there are things you can do there in the CRM, and you can encrypt this data. Basically, they've increased the limits from, on the enterprise, it used to be 5, now it's 10. And on the ultimate, it's now 20. And I think they've added more fields that can be encrypted. Yeah.
Yep. More fields that can be encrypted. So now small multi-lines, dates, currencies, decimal. It seems like they opened it up to most fields other than like formulas and some of the really long multi-line fields. And they also improved the ability to use better filters if you do have any encrypted like number fields. So you can now do proper is not equal to, is empty, is not empty, because some of the filtering would get a little bit limited if you had a field that was encrypted. So nice little usability updates.
What's the best practice on these encrypted fields? Is it just setting user permissions to hide them, or?
Yeah, encrypt them, have them only visible for admin. And then if users do need selective ways to see data like that in certain cases, create a custom button that displays the value and then logs every time that the button is pressed.
Nice. And that's not out of the box, the whole custom.
No, yeah, the custom button would be a custom build. Not a very big one, but a common example is just that you got a running related list to your customer record that shows every time someone has viewed a social or viewed their pricing or viewed, any of these specific elements.
Got it. And I know that would be a good implementation of the week as well. Because we've done that for clients where, you, in order to view it, you have to click it and it shows them to them. I would imagine you'd also want to send a notification to, an admin saying someone viewed the social security number as well. So good stuff. All right. And then Zoho Sheet has done kind of a complete upgrade to how you can publish spreadsheets. And this is one of those applications. Oftentimes we're talking about Zoho and we're saying, yeah, okay, well, they're catching up to the competition. They're adding features that other people have. In this case, with Zoho Sheets, man, they tend to be ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, you've been a long time Zoho Sheets fan.
Well, I love this. You can publish rows. You can publish, just a selection. You can hide man, this is extremely granular on what you can do. And what I'm talking about is you have a spreadsheet, and most spreadsheet software allows you to do this where you can just, publish it to the web. Right. And usually limited. Normally nobody wants to publish it to the web and make anybody edit it or do anything with it. But they've kind of taken it, you can allow interaction. So if you wanted to publish something, you can hide certain things. You can hide formulas. You can allow it to be downloaded or not. You can hide the grid lines. It's really, really slick. Hiding the grid lines and hiding rows and column headers. Oftentimes, you've got clients who are doing price lists and things like that. You can make this look really slick in a Zoho Sheet and just have it published. And
nice too to selectively publish too. So you could just publish a certain sheet. So in that case of let's say, maybe an example is you're building a pricing calculator, right? You want a customer to be able to play with it. Well, you might not want to let them see sheets 2 through 5 that contain all your purchase prices and your margins, but you just want to show them sheet 1 where they can play with some numbers and see what a quote might look like. It's a pretty cool little tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, it really is. You can, you basically, I always make a tab called calculations or something like that, right? Where it's running all the math and you're doing all your references are over there to keep the sheet clean. Anyway, very nice team. Really happy with the work those guys are doing. All righty. And then moving on with Zoho news. So we have a Calendly integration with Zobot. We may want to look at this. Basically, you could have a Zobot and a whole lot of logic here and just direct people to the proper Calendly link for booking. This makes me happy. We were talking about Calendly earlier. So you've got a Zobot Calendly integration. Well, how about a Zoho meeting Calendly integration? Let's take it to the next level there. But this is pretty slick, dude. We have a lot of, we've got 18 Calendly accounts, and I don't know, on a factor of probably 5 or 6, different meeting types for those people, and then team meetings and all those kind of things. And to be able to kind of guide people down a path as to who they actually need to book with and what they need to do for a lot of companies, I think this is it's a nice deal.
Yeah. And it's they kind of have a similar thing in the codeless bot builder right now, where you can surface, slots that someone could choose, but those wouldn't really be in their current state, wouldn't really be integrated to anything. So it's it's all fine and well, but it doesn't really solve the main problem. The one thing that I do notice with this is that it references that you have to do this through the SalesIQ scripts platform. I don't know if this is supported in the codeless builder quite yet. I need to play around with it a little bit. But if it's in the codeless builder, I would imagine that it's coming or if it's in the script builder, it should show up in the codeless builder eventually here. But definitely nice, as you're saying, right? You could have the first prompt of a Zobot be, are you a potential new customer? Or are you here for some support, right? And then serve them up a Calendly link based on their response. Pretty nice functionality to increase capture of web visitors.
All right. And with our next story, Zoho SalesIQ operator chat window for nurturing leads. So what are we doing here, Tyler? I did not have a chance to even look at this one.
So this is if you have a chatter who is an identified lead in the CRM, basically they've chatted, provided their email in the past, or they have clicked through to the website using a special email link that has some SalesIQ identifiers. And basically here, they're just giving you the ability to interact with them as a lead through the SalesIQ interface. So maybe they are chatting with you, and then you're going to send them a follow-up email, right? You can kind of do all that from the page. You can also view a lot of things from the CRM, right? Looking at like previous conversations, call history, open tasks and activities, their lead score, right? So they're kind of just expanding the integration between a SalesIQ visitor or a chatter and a CRM lead or contact.
Yeah, this latest update to SalesIQ is just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, the tricky thing is always tricky thing with SalesIQ when you're using it as like a arm of the CRM like this is making the connection, especially if you have visitors who might be more hesitant to provide an email or haven't ever chatted with you before. There are some tricks to do it. We could probably make a tip of the week on it sometime, but that's really the big challenge there is de-anonymizing, right? Connecting John Smith at Gmail to visitor 12345 is always the challenge. But if you can do it, a lot of these tools are great for your web engagement.
Yeah, super nice. All righty. And then the Color Palooza that we had a couple of months ago continues. So color-coded tags are now being supported in the latest version of Bigin. I can tell you this is great. It's great in the CRM. It's just so nice, the color tagging that they've added and the various color options that have been added to the CRM. And they just ported that code over to Bigin, and here you go. So now you've got it. It's in the mobile app for Android, and they just keep rolling it out bit by bit by bit. Not much more we can say about that.
Yep. Why not? Right. More color.
Right. They still do have that. They got the crazy bug, but I tell you, I love this bug that they've got. So
I hope they never fix it.
I hope they never fix it. We've basically got on our homepage, I don't know, we've got on our dashboard, on our manager's homepage, we've got 10 different charts that we're looking at.
And most of them are like month over month style charts.
Month over month, and then just randomly you load the page and it's just a rainbow. It's just all kinds of colors.
Somewhere on the back end, each month is being assigned a color as if it was like a pick list value in the report, and it brings us much joy. We love seeing that. It does.
Well, because then it disappears the next time you refresh the page or something, if you go out of the page and back into it. So classic. All right, and then hey, kudos to Zoho Sign. They won the 2021 Software Reviews Electronic Signature Emotional Footprint Award. Now, I'll tell you what.
That is a mouthful.
Zoho Sign leaves such an emotional footprint on me.
I bet it
does.
There's
a lot of things that have left footprints on me emotionally in my life. Zoho Sign, that's heavy though. So anyway.
And so here it looks like they've plotted them on a grid here where our axes are net emotional footprint and value index. I might need a proof of this math. I don't know exactly what those mean. But nonetheless, they've plotted really all the big options here: SignEasy, DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and Zoho came out on top based on the metrics that they're looking at. So kudos to the Sign team. We find ourselves using that tool all the time. Other than just the little issue with user permissions, which we know they're working on, it is really great to use. So good work to the Zoho Sign team.
Yes, that is one oddly named award. That's all I've got to say. You've got a lot of, explain the emotional footprint to me. It just leaves people happy.
It looks like they're aggregating. Yeah, they're aggregating emotional footprint scores across 26 dimensions of vendor-client relationship. Wow. So they're looking at basically user sentiment, it looks like. So yeah, different kind of categories: service experience, product impact, strategy and innovation, conflict resolution. So yeah, it must just be kind of like user sentiment analysis based on some surveying, and people seem to love Zoho Sign.
And I will tell you, this works when you aggregate your emotional footprint across 26 dimensions. That's what I did with my current wife, and that's why I'm not marrying her. I looked at the overall emotional footprint, and I'll tell you what, there were more than 26 dimensions there that I had to look into, but it worked out well. It worked out well. So I suggest everybody do this. Write to me if you want to know the 1,356 dimensions you need to look at before getting married, but I'll be happy to share that with you. Just PM me. All right. And then Zoho has launched Trainer Central. This is something Zoho's been doing this year. They've been launching a product, and then 6 months later, they're launching a product. I guess it must have been beta up to this time.
I think so. They go into these kind of wide open betas, where pretty much anyone can just jump in and start using it. But I think now, based on the customer feedback that they've received, they're ready to kind of fully unveil it and release it to the public. And so Trainer Central is pretty much Zoho's replacement for Zoho Showtime, which is like a webinar and training tool. It's running as a separate brand and will live kind of outside Zoho One. And really the idea is if you are a company who monetizes trainings, so you do them for other companies or you do onboardings or HR practices where you're giving these walkthroughs and quizzes and multimedia presentations, you can use Trainer Central as your platform to build and then sell those to your clients.
And it's a great app. It really is. We've been playing with it. I like it a lot. We actually got a preview of this, gosh, way back when, Tyler.
Long time ago now.
Over a year and a half ago, Zoho brought us in and wanted our feedback, and we kind of went through it. And they've done a great job with the application. Showtime is gone, but if you have Zoho One, it's not. I guess you'll get to have it for as long as you want. But Trainer Central,
as long as you already had it. Yep.
As long as you had it. If you buy Zoho One now, you don't get Showtime. You'll have to go out and separately purchase Trainer Central because it's not part of Zoho One.
Yeah, and for like your standard webinars, they're kind of moving that functionality to Zoho Meetings webinar platform, which is included with Zoho One.
And another option is, I was discussing with someone the other day that, they wanted to collect revenue, and they actually were having problem with Showtime collecting it. There's Backstage. You can virtually do the same thing in Backstage. You can, you're not doing the training, you're not having the testing, you're not doing that, but it's another very good kind of collaborative webinar platform as well. So kudos on Zoho, and Trainer Central is off to the races. And we're going to wrap up the news with a couple November roundups. We've covered most of these stories before. We've got the inventory roundup for November. I kind of went through this. Really, I think we got all these covered. Not a whole lot happening in Zoho inventory, but if you missed some of the shows and you want to see what happened in Zoho inventory, it's kind of a little newsletter that kind of takes you through all of that on their community digest there. And then we also have, speaking of, we have a Backstage roundup. This was kind of nice. You kind of had, they've made some significant changes. Zoho really turned on a dime with Backstage because it used to be basically an in-person event management tool. And as soon as COVID hit, man, they changed it to, both in-person and virtual events. And they've just been making some, continued improvements to that. They're calling it Backstage on Air. You can join rehearsals. So they've got some great stuff. So if you want to keep up with Backstage, go ahead.
And I guess we'll do our PSA that we always do with Backstage here on why you may want to really consider using it. If you are selling tickets for your event and you might be running it on Eventbrite right now, Eventbrite does take a cut. I don't remember what it is, 5-10%, I think, of the ticket sales. Zoho Backstage does not. So if you are already a Zoho user and you want to do an event and you're going to sell tickets for it, consider using Backstage. We know, of course, a lot of the people attending are already going to have Eventbrite on their phone. So you might have to go that way, if you can't get your customers onto Backstage. But I think for most people, it wouldn't be an issue, and it will save you a nice little chunk of change on your ticket sales.
All right. And I tell you what, I get letters. I know you guys, you just won't leave me alone. I keep getting emails about this. So by popular demand, we have more Cobra news. Yes, more Cobra news. So as you may or may not know, Sridhar Vimbu, the CEO of Zoho, lives in a small village outside of Chennai. And a while ago, we had this, they caught a big king cobra, and we had that. Now, this is even better. We have got dancing snakes. That's right. Dancing snakes.
Straight from Sridhar's Twitter here.
Straight from, yeah. So this is a cool video. There was a super heavy rain. And basically, these two snakes are just like, I don't even know how they're doing. They must be rather long. If you're watching,
better dancers than I am. That's for sure.
If you're listening to this, it looks like they're several feet in the air and their bodies are swaying and they're doing a little dance. Anyway, I'm not sure they're cobras, but I'm throwing it into the general cobra news feed.
We'll round up the cobras.
Anything related to snakes is a cobra for me. All right. And with that, Tyler, that takes us to our implementation of the week.
Yes, this was kind of a fun one here that we did for a client. We've done it a couple different times, different ways, shapes, and forms. But, basically it's a sync here from CRM to some external data using Zoho Analytics. So oftentimes we get these requests, I've got this third-party system, I've got this custom app, and I've got all this data parked on some type of, AWS or Azure database. And I want to run some updates of my CRM data based on, what I have in my data warehouse. And so, of course, tools like AWS and Azure have an open API that we would be able to hit. But then you're kind of working outside of the Zoho ecosystem, which just makes the development and deployment time kind of stretch as you're kind of, building these external connections. And so what we found is that the beauty is Zoho Analytics has great connectors for cloud databases, whether you're on AWS, Azure, you're on S3, Redshift, any of the big kind of data storage options that they have. Is that within Analytics you can just use their pre-built connectors and just pull your data right over, right? And you don't have to do anything crazy. You just set up your ports and you set up your credentials there, and then it's going to do your regular sync. Then what we can do is within Zoho Analytics, we can build some SQL functions to either normalize the data, run some joins, kind of put things together. For example, a customer we did this for recently had a contacts table that was very minimal. Then it had like a contact details table and then a contact subscriptions table, right? So before we run the integration, we actually marry all those up with SQL within Zoho Analytics itself. And then what we found is that you can run a scheduled function to basically create what Analytics calls a job. The job, in essence, just stores like a JSON formatted copy of a table. So let's say we want to run this daily, we'll set up a schedule at 4 a.m. that'll make a job from a query table that's looking at data from yesterday, right? And then 5 minutes later, once that job is done, a second schedule downloads the job and then uses it to upsert the CRM records. The beauty of doing this is that Zoho CRM's upsert is very robust, and we can actually have it look on multiple factors with one upsert. So in this case, we're looking on a matching ID, and then if there is no matching ID, look for an email, right? So you're kind of able to go through a couple different update steps all at once. And really, it just creates a way that we can pull in data from these external sources without having to do too much crazy API work kind of tying into a third-party platform. Right? Because now all of our APIs are just between CRM and Analytics, where we're just leveraging their connectors, which kind of just turn on and use. We're not having to manage access tokens and refresh tokens and all that kind of insanity that gets into a third-party integration.
So does this hit API calls at all?
It does. Yeah, it does indeed. With Zoho Analytics, they're done in these bulk jobs, so it doesn't create or doesn't cause too many on that side. It does use your CRM API credits. When we're running these syncs, we're doing them in bulk, so you can get a lot done in one update. Basically, a rule of thumb is that, if I want to get 200 records from the CRM, that's one API call. If I want to update or create records in the CRM, I can do 100 per API call. In this case, we're not actually getting anything from the CRM, so you'd have a limit of about, what would that be, 100 per minute times 100, so about 10,000 records that you can update. So there is kind of an upper limit on that side and that's just Zoho's API per minute limits. And that's why we'll set these up to run on like a daily basis or every 2 hours basis, right? So that we can kind of manage the level of records that need to be updated. But yeah, any of those limits would actually be the same, even if we were querying directly to AWS, because it's really just based on that CRM per minute limitation.
All right. And Greg in the chat room says it's actually one API credit for every 10 records that are upserted. Or
if you're doing an upsert, got it.
Yeah. Interesting. So this is because I'm thinking, a lot of times maybe you'd want to have a lot of this. Do you really want to schedule this more than once or twice a day?
That just depends. Depends on the data and how much you need to pull in. Because you could, of course, run the limitation gets into there in terms of the syncs to Analytics, right? So you'd probably run it every 4 hours or something like that.
Coolio. All right, let's move on to this week's read. And this one comes from Zoho. And I've never heard of this. So this is, boost your team productivity using the Eisenhower Matrix. Evidently, our past president and general, Dwight D. Eisenhower, had a matrix that he used, which went from important to less important, urgent to less urgent. So you had to do immediately, schedule do it later, delegated to others, don't do it. That was kind of his methodology for breaking things down. It seems like a much more simplified version of getting things done, if you've ever read that book. But just a nice article that breaks down the, what the statuses were, how he did it, how he put things, and how he got things done. Nice article. Good read.
Yeah, and I like too what they did here. The writer did a good job for Zoho on kind of correlating each of these quadrants to different things that you would do inside of Click, right? So something that's going to be delegated, you could support that with an app mention, right? Something scheduled later, you could set up a future reminder or a scheduled function or a bot. Things that you would do right away, you could do a call, you could set yourself on do not disturb. So I like the way they use like the business concept and then tied it to the specific like line by line tools within Click that you can use to support that. So nice job to the writer here.
Yes, super nice. Then the writer, Zoho's blogs they all use just one name. This slides by Prason. So Prason, you've done a nice job here. So congrats. Thank you, buddy. And that brings us to what's new over on Zanata.com. Shout out to our client Homebase. They gave us a super nice case study. So this is our December case study posted up over on Zanata.com, and just great stuff here. So this has been a fun client, and I think everything's really turned out well for them.
Yeah, and so Homebase basically is a SaaS company. They provide HR and payroll services to small, mid-sized, and large businesses, and they actually use the CRM to run all of their sales operations. Kind of an interesting build because they're a SaaS company. Of course, they have their own whole platform that they're running their customer accounts on. And then they have an integration where, accounts sync over and, basically what we built is that based on certain, what would you call them? Maybe signals sent from their application. We have schedules that are regularly scraping for accounts that recently received those signals so that we can create and round robin opportunities. So, they're running a new pipeline, right, for a new product. And as accounts now meet criteria to be applicable for that new product, an opportunity is just created and assigned so that their sales team can jump right in and, get in touch with that customer and let them know they're now eligible for this new service. It's definitely a fun implementation. They've got a great team over there around sales operations and, a good group of guys to work with.
Yep. Shout out to David Jesse over there. He's their sales operation analyst. Thanks so much, guys. And then also over on Zanata.com, we have 5 questions to ask yourself about your website. Kind of a detailed look here. How's it look on mobile? Is it ADA compliant? Do you have outdated content? Do you have backups in place? And does Lighthouse or GT Metrics, how do they grade your site? Super important stuff to look at here. We've got a case study up here. We had, Bright and Beautiful as a client of ours, and they were a solid F. And by the time we were done, we got them up to a really good B. And I think we're striving to get that to an A. Our web team works so hard on optimization and making sure you're doing what needs to be done. Your website's important. If it's slow, that's bad. If it's poorly laid out, that's bad. There's so much around it. So
yeah, I think mobile optimization is a big one too that's mentioned. I mean, every time I see the stat, I'm blown away, but 54% of web traffic is mobile, right? And that's not just counting like apps, that's counting in the browser, right? Going to your website. And sometimes you'll find one of those websites that just is not made for mobile and you're just going to click right off of it. So good thing for the team to emphasize here in this article.
Yes, it is. All righty. And then moving right along to our pick of the week, I went back to an oldie but goodie. So a couple of reasons for this. One, we talked about the Zobot integration with Calendly that was put out. By the way, the pick of the week is Calendly. If you're not familiar with it, it is an online scheduling tool. You just give someone a link. They go to your calendar. They can pick something that's available on your calendar. You can have multiple different meetings, multiple different links. Very, very robust tool. We use it internally across everything we do here. It saves us probably hundreds, if not thousands of hours a year across everybody, just going back and forth scheduling meetings. So great application. If you haven't checked it out, I suggest you do. Their pricing on it is just, you can get an essential for $8 a month, a professional for $12 a month. That's if you're paying annually, or 10 and 15 if you're paying monthly. It is literally worth every penny. But then they did another really cool feature they released this week that I wanted to point out is they now have meeting polls.
Very nice.
So you're trying to get 8 or 9 people together. It's basically, you send them a link, everybody pick your top 3 preferred times. It's going to match up the one that works, and then go ahead and automatically set that meeting for you.
That is
really
great
cool
for meetings with a lot of stakeholders, because the challenge is, even with Calendly, if you have 5 or 6 different people that need to coordinate, you're still going to end up emailing back and forth to find a time. And so this is great. I'm excited for this feature. There's a couple clients where we've got a lot of different stakeholders involved, where I would imagine myself using this.
Yeah, simple. You instead of creating a, one-off meeting type or an event type, maybe you've got a standard, 30-minute touch base call. And
and this runs in the extension too. That's perfect.
Yeah. It runs in the Chrome and Firefox. So basically you fire it up, you select all the times that you're available. By the way, the other cool thing they do here is they ask you if you want to reserve those times. So it's super nice. So you select all these times, and it says reserve these times until the meeting's actually booked. So it holds those on your calendar. Nobody else can get in there. It says, God forbid you go through and you pick all these times. By the time the poll gets completed, that time gets booked on your calendar. So it's super nice there. And then it sends everybody out and it says select all the times you're available to meet. And then the most popular time wins, and the invite is sent out. We've highlighted them a couple of years ago. I think we talked about Calendly. It's really a fantastic application. A couple others that are out there. There's Acuity Scheduling. All of them seem to have little niches that fit certain businesses. Right? None of them seem to have all the features that all the others have. But this is clearly a feature that I've never seen before, and I just so happy that we're using Calendly, because that's going to be great. All right. And that takes us to our tip of the week, and that is Zoho Recruit. We're doing overview of the settings. So all of the settings inside of Zoho Recruit, we're basically covering those. This is a quick little video here, just running for, what do we got here? Not a quick little video, 16 minutes. We talked about this. So we went through all the settings in Zoho Recruit, and that is over on our YouTube channel. Be sure to check us out over there. We're dropping usually 2 to 3 videos every single week, sometimes more. And I think we try to put out non-fluffy content, Tyler, just kind of all stuff that is
useful content. It's always the goal.
Useful, succinct content that hopefully you can use and have actionable things that come out of that for you as well. And we are over 2,800 subscribers, which means we will hit 3,000 subscribers at the end of this year. Thank you, everybody, supporting us. If you haven't, please head over to youtube.com/Zanata and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for supporting us there. And with that, we'll move on to our Q&A. Got one this week from the YouTube channel. If anybody in the chat room has a question, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A now while we're answering this. Otherwise, we'll kind of go through that. So Tyler, Daniel Anir asks, and this was in regards to our Zoho Learn, creating articles and content. He says, I'm wondering if Zoho Learn would be a suitable option for offering an online video-based course. Can I host videos in it, or would I need to embed a YouTube video? As you mentioned, can be done. Unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah. So, I mean, you would probably do a YouTube video embed. If you were doing it internally for your own team, you'd go Zoho Learn and just link out to YouTube videos or embed them into the tool. If you were doing this to train externally, you might actually want to look at Trainer Central, which is now released in full. Kind of like a webinar online training course platform, kind of targeted for doing it as your product, right? So if you're training other companies or training other groups, so you might want to take a look there as well and kind of see which one would fit your use case better.
Yeah, for a little more clarity, Daniel, basically on this, Yes, it can be an online video-based training course, but only for people that actually are users of Zoho Learn. So if you want to offer this to the general public, you want to sell a course, you want to do something like that, you'll want to go ahead and look at Trainer Central for that as well. And I do have some people, we talked about it earlier, that are using Backstage to sell courses, to sell video content as well. So you basically can, if you think of it, rather than just coming to our event, you're basically buying an event, and that event can be training. So if you have Zoho One, Backstage is included. So kind of look at both those options. And as Tyler mentioned, they don't take any fees for that. All righty. And with that, Tyler, we're going to wrap up yet another.
Actually, we kind of have a follow-up question here from Peter in the chat. Snuck it in right in time here. So, separate question. Why not use Zoho Meeting instead of Calendly? So good question. So there's kind of a couple elements there. So the two sides for us of like a meeting that we want to get booked is the booking of the meeting and then the hosting of like the video call. So currently we use Calendly for the booking and then Zoom for the actual video meeting and screen share and everything there. The reason that we use those is because when you book through Calendly, immediately before the invite is ever even sent out, the Zoom link is applied and added to that calendar event. So there isn't any like first invite and then 5 seconds later update to that invite of it adding the Zoom link. The main reason that we're on that is just because Zoho Bookings, which is Zoho's version of Calendly in essence, just isn't quite up to snuff for what we need. It has some issues syncing with external calendars that just haven't quite been resolved. And then for Zoho Meeting, it's just not quite there on like audio and video quality. Meetings is definitely a great tool. And like for a lot of people, it's going to be just fine. But for us, we are just on so many of these calls each and every day that it just has to be kind of best in class.
All righty. So with that, Tyler, we will wrap up our show. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody, so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please head over to ZANAlytics.com and drop us a line. And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to all the stories we discussed today. As always, we would love if you would follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.